here. Just came up here to set up the camera and do a little bit of scouting. I thought I have my lesson plan ready. I had my message ready, but I didn't think I'd have time to get to it. So I always go up in the woods with my waterproof Bible, and I threw in the rest of my lesson where we left off last week. So I figured, what the heck? I might as well come on live and up here, in the elk woods, which feels good to be up here. It took me entirely too long to get up here, but it was really fun to get up here. But I am going to go ahead and go through and start where we left off last video. And if you guys want to see that video, you can go and check out our Backcountry Bible from it's not last week, but it's been a while ago. So you guys can check that out. But we're going to jump right into John 1 here. And remember what I was talking about last video? Shush. My dogs are up here with me. Hey, quit. These guys don't want to hear you. So I was up here last week, or last video, and I was talking about how there were things that were being taught to me and things that I didn't pay attention to when I was elk hunting, and how that it was brought to light to me. The more I got out and I started looking at things and I opened my mind to a lot of things, it opened my mind up to a lot of different things about elk hunting. And then I made our first point with this with John 1:9, and I'm going to go ahead and go back into that and read it for you guys so we can get on good footing here. And if you see me fidgety, that's because there's a ton of mosquitoes up here. I mean, a ton. So let me get on here, and we're going to go John 1:9. John 1:9, and that's the Gospel of John, not the... See, I'm fidgety. All right, so let me read it to you real quick. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him. Now, notice that he was in the world, and the world was made through him. Yet the world did not know him. He came to his own people did not receive him. But all who received him, all who believed in his name, he gave the right to become the children of God, who were born not of blood, or of will of the flesh, nor of will of man, but of God. So a couple things I wanted to point out. We already talked about the first point there, that he came into the world. He created the world. The world was created through him and for him. It actually tells us. That means one thing. And if you look at it, that there are 5 things that this whole passage means. But that means one thing, that he came into the world means that this is his. He created all this. He created elk hunting. He created my want and need to be out here. And he created all this. And so the 5 things is he's the true light. He gave light. The world was made through him. And the world rejected him. But those who did not reject him become his children. So he became the true light. So what's that mean? The true light. Well, if you think about light, what does light do? Light, I've been up here in the dark, and I've been up here in the daylight, and I've hiked out of here in the dark, and it's a whole lot easier to hike out of here in the daylight. The light shows you the way. My dog is right here. Go. The light will show you the way, and so by being the light, it means that he's casting light on reality. What's true is what Jesus is showing. He's God in flesh, and he came on earth to show us what life is about, what we're about, and what God's about. Well, let's put it back in the right perspective. What God's about, which means what we're about, and then that means what life's about. And when we put those priorities in order, when we put God, us, and life, that actually, or I want to say not us, I want to say humans, and and then what life's about. Those are the things that he sheds a light on. So he gives us the idea of how we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to act. And matter of fact, it's really simple, guys. It comes down to 2 things: love God and love others. And sometimes loving others means saying the hard stuff. Sometimes loving others means giving up something of yourself. It's always giving up something of yourself. Whenever you love somebody else, you're giving something of yourself. So he's the true light. So he's God in human form, you guys. Jesus claimed to be God, and they asked him, "Are you the true God?" The Pharisees did, and he said, "I am." And when he said "I am," that was the word that God used for himself to Moses, and actually all through the Old Testament, God said "I am" through the whole Old Testament. And so when he said that to the Pharisees, the religious people of the day, they're like, "Oh, how can he's a human? He's standing right in front of me." Even though I've seen all of the different miracles that he's done, and I've never seen a human act like him, I do know that that God is, that Jesus right here is a man, but I can't quite believe that he's God. And the minute that he said he was God, I'm going to throw rocks at him and stone him for saying that he is God, and by saying that I am. And the Pharisees knew exactly what that meant, and he knew what he meant when he said it. And that was one of the times that he said that he is God. It also says in Colossians 2:9, in him the fullness of deity dwells. So if the fullness of deity dwells, the fullness of God dwells within him, that means that he is the king of everything. That means that he is the one who created everything. It actually says that in Colossians also. It says that all things were made through him and for him. And so if that's the truth, then Jesus's way is the way. It also means that, so by now we got to stop here for just a second, because a lot of people think Jesus's way is the way means, you guys have all seen it probably, like the church lady and things like that that make fun of people that go to church, and Christians think they're a lot of times make them look like that they're a bunch of old goody goodies or goody two shoes, and we are good. I don't want to say that. It's not because we do something, but God does make us good. But what I would like to say is that he actually has created us in his image, and he's the way, and so he imparts his way into us, and that's a whole lot different than what a lot of people think. It doesn't mean how long you go to church or how much you tithe or how much. It doesn't mean anything about you, really. It means everything about him. So he's the way, and he'll put his way into you. So, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if you guys watched The Chosen at all, but I really like the way that they do with what they do with Jesus, and they make him to where he teases people, where he dances, where he's around people, and the thing that I really like is how he teases people, because I guarantee you that's true about him. He still does that to this day. He's still got that same thing about him, where he is, in his resurrected form, he was cooking fish for everybody. That's a big deal, because that means, see, in his resurrected form, he didn't need to. He just wanted to have a barbecue. You guys understand this about Jesus. He turned water into wine. He drank wine at the wedding with them. It's something. We make him out to be this guy with this big halo around his head. Have you guys ever seen some of those movies that that they have Jesus in? There was one that he had his eyes open the whole time, and that is not Jesus. Jesus is so good and so cool. He's the guy you want to be around. You guys, he's the life of the party. He's the life of out here. Hey, get over here. I don't need them running off. So, second thing is he gives light. Ezekiel 36:26 says, I will give you a new heart. I will put my heart into you. I'm going to change you. Man, just think of what this world would be like if people had hearts. And what he's talking about here is he's putting a spirit in you. See, we're made of three things. We're made of physical, we're made of mental, or soul, and we're made of spirit. And the spirit controls all of it. So your spirit, have you guys ever argued with yourselves about what you should think and what you shouldn't think? Well, that's a spiritual act, because your spirit is telling your thought patterns how to think. If that was just something that evolved, if it was just like brain waves that evolved, none of it would be that would not you couldn't evolve that where you'd have these internal conversations. That would not even work. That's what separates us from dogs. as good as they are, they're running all over the place. But that's what separates us from dogs as well. Is dogs don't sit and have moral dilemmas about what they're doing. I mean, of course they're like, well, maybe I shouldn't do this or I'm going to get whacked. But they're not like, oh, I shouldn't do this because it's wrong. They don't think that way. Humans do, angels do, and that's it. So he gives us that, actually. And if that part of us is broken, then we make bad decisions all the time. We just don't listen to that part. If we have a dead spirit in us, we just act out on whatever our chemical makeup wants us to act out on. You see it all over right now. You see it, you see it in all of our movies. You see it in all of the stuff. So, that's what he says is he's going to give us that life. And that life is that spirit that he gives you is the light. That's what brings the way into you. Hey, get over here. So, next thing is the world was made through him. That makes him king. Matthew 28, 18 and 20. He's the king of heaven and earth. He's the king of it all. That means, we need to be subject to him. That means that we come underneath him. And I'll tell you what, his kingdom's the best place we can be. It's the best thing that we can do. And it gives us freedom. Being, when we think king, we're Americans, so we are always like, well, we hate kings. Well, we really don't. We if we had good kings, if you had the perfect king to be under, you would really want to be under him, and you can be. His name's Jesus, and he gives you so much freedom underneath what he does. He gives you so much freedom. The world rejected him. The current culture, just look at it. Look at the chaos that's going on. That's a rejecting of the light. That's the rejecting of who he is. If there's no maker, then anything goes, right? The toughest shall survive. If there's no maker, if there's nobody that says that I am the way, the light, if there's none of that, then you could do whatever you want. That's why people want to say that there is no God, by the way. They want to say there's no God so they can do whatever they want. And then most of the time their conscience is getting them. And so they're rebelling against their own conscience. And then they try to take that rebellion out, maybe against their dad, or they take it out against somebody that stands for just saying what Jesus says, for just being the one that says the words, not the one that no Christian can uphold these words completely. And no Christian has the authority to tell people that these words are his own. So, but he does, but we are supposed to tell people what these words mean. So, our current culture, man, has rejected him. Look at Psalms 2. It talks about what's going to happen. The people that reject him, they're not, well, just think what's happening. If you're rejecting the way, the truth, and the life, you're rejecting all that. So you're looking at total, you have no idea what's going on. You're looking at darkness, and you're looking at chaos, and you're looking at death. And see, that's all hell is. That's what hell is it's all those things. And you choose to do that because you want to be your own dang king, which you know that you can't be the king of. Don't reject him. Don't reject the way. Don't reject how we're supposed to live. Don't reject how you're supposed to live. Is there a lot of chaos that you've created in your life? I've created chaos in my life, and I sat there and thought, oh my goodness, what in the world did I do? Well, think about that. How did you create that chaos? Did you know not to do it, but you didn't listen? See, that's rejecting the Lord. That's rejecting the Spirit. Don't reject Jesus Christ. Do not reject Jesus, and you will find life to live abundantly. And that moves us into the next thing. But those who don't become children, or those who don't reject him, become children. So you come back to your original design. He made you, and in the Garden of Eden, you're going to live in that shalom, or that perfect communion with Christ back in the garden. And that's what he made you for. He made you for that, to live with him as his child in the garden. Not as his equal, but you get all the stuff that the child gets. And I'll tell you what, being a child of somebody who is like that is the best thing that you can have. And another thing is you were made for this. You guys know it. You guys know that you're made for attachment with Jesus. You know that you're made for an attachment with something that gives you eternal perspective, or perspective beyond the craziness of this world. You know that. And then this isn't religion, guys. Jesus flat out showed that it wasn't religion. People accused him of hanging out with drunkards and sailors, and look who he chose for the guys to follow him. You know, he had a bunch of fishermen around him, and Peter's like a lot of us. Peter kept being Peter a lot of times, and Jesus was real understood it about Peter. But think about that. That has nothing to do with religion. It's not like he's like, okay, you do all these good things and maybe you can follow me. No, he's like, you're horrible. You have these horrible things, all this stuff that you've thought up. I know it, but I'm going to forgive you for it. And I'm going to put my spirit inside of you. And that's going to change you. Dude, you know, that's the best thing I ever heard in my life. When that happened to me, I actually started living again. Before I was just like trying to survive, and I wasn't thriving at all. And then I couldn't imagine 2020 without knowing who Christ is. I couldn't imagine. If I had no hope in what's going on, life would be horrible. Life would be scary. Life would be something I wouldn't want to be around. But the fact of the matter is, if you know that Jesus is king and he's allowing all this to happen, then there's something going to come out of it, and it's better for us. It may not be better on this earth, but it's going to be better later on. And then the last thing is, he doesn't bring you in to be like just one of his followers. Did you notice that? You get to be in his family. That's what this is all about. Is you get to be in communion, family. You get invited to the family dinners of God. That's amazing, you guys. I get excited about this stuff because every time that I get on a place like this, and let me show you a little bit of it. Every time, there's snow behind me, and there's mosquitoes off of that snow, but every time I get into a place like this, and I start looking around, I understand what family of God means, because he actually gave this to us. That's why we're so fortunate here to have all this to use and to be on, is because it brings us in perspective. We get to be family. He gives us this. He gives us all this. And this stuff is just a little inkling of what really reality is. This is the fallen world. Could you imagine what it's going to be like in the perfect world? We can't even imagine it. Perfect is just a concept to us. We don't even think about perfect because we've never seen it, but wait until we do, because it's going to be amazing. The Elkwoods will be everything you wanted them to be. So it's just going to be awesome. No more dead blow to trip over. So the last thing I'd like to leave you guys with, just think about, like elk hunting, you know, once I gave into this, once I started doing the way, and once I started giving the life and started walking in the life, things changed for me drastically. The biggest change was the fact that I no longer have to worry about meaning. I no longer have to worry about all those things. And the biggest thing is the fact that I know that Jesus is here, and he knows all the struggles we're going through, especially right now. And he's told us, he said, hey, look, it's gonna get bad before it gets better. But keep the faith and be happy in it, and understand that I'm a part of it, and I'm going to do something good out of it. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't want to serve a God like that. Oh, really? Well, those same people will probably, a lot of them go to gyms. Well, if they don't suffer through at the gym, they're not going to come out the other end with a better part of who they are. And that's what he does to us, is he's stretching us. So you guys, thanks for coming on here. Get yourself one of these waterproof Bibles. You can read them anywhere. I got it for the blind for deer season, the one that I can't stay in. Maybe this year, I'm getting a little older, maybe I'll stay in and shoot a deer this year. But thanks for coming on here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to call me. Go to Life Outdoors. Call me. My phone number and everything's over there. If you want to talk anything about this, put some comments below. But thanks for watching, and I'm going to get off of here, and I got to head out of here. It's getting pretty late, so it's going to be a little bit cool when I get down there. All right, take it easy. Thanks, guys. Before we go, why don't I show you a little bit around? Check this out. Yeah, these guys have been playing in the snow and eating snow. But I put the camera up there. You see where Gunner's at. But look at, there's elk rubs all around me. And they're several different years old. I think I'm going to find an elk in here this year. All right, I'm going to get off of here, guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.